There are a ton of companies all across the globe trying to find a cure for COVID, and Novavax is right here in Gaithersburg, and they've been working on a COVID vaccine, and the government just gave them $1.6 billion to continue down that path.
Yeah, they're looking for 100 million doses for the American people by the end of the year.
All right, John, are you with us?
John's up early.
I am.
He's zooming in with us. We can see him on the Zoom.
Hey, what's up, John?
Hey, Jason, how are you?
Good, buddy. Hey, congratulations, man. That's huge news.
Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. Yeah, no, the little company from Maryland here is, competing with major pharmaceuticals from all over the world to try to put an end to this horrible pandemic that we're suffering through, and make it safe, really safe for us to go outside and interact with everybody around the world. So,
are you the first company? Are you the first American company to be awarded the money by the federal government?
No. The U.S. government came together and they put all the agencies like the FDA, HHS, DOD. They all came together and they created this Operation Warp Speed. And that's what the government calls this initiative to promote technology that will lead to a vaccine. We are by far the biggest grant that the U.S. government has made to date. I see that John has his finger up in the air.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to ask, to give us some perspective on the companies you're competing against and the size of Novavax compared to some of those other companies, and just how big they are and how long they've been in business compared to how long Novavax has been at it. Just give us some perspective on that.
Absolutely. So the big boys out there, and you're going to recognize the names right away: Merck, Pfizer, Sanofi, Johnson & Johnson. They're all creating vaccines. They've all been in the vaccine business for a long, long time. Novavax has been in the vaccine business. We're a development company. We don't have a product on the market right now. We've been developing vaccines for years. We have a very, very strong candidate. We've gone through phase 3 clinical trials with our flu vaccine, and we were all ready to sort of take the flu vaccine, better flu vaccine than the ones that are out there right now, bring it into the market, and then COVID hit. And so we switched gears and focused all of our attention right on, the coronavirus situation. And then since January, when we got the genetic sequence, we're now in clinical trials, and we've been talking with, the U.S. government, governments from all over the world, CEPI, which is a collective of various funding mechanisms that have a global interest in providing vaccines around the world. They gave us about $400 million back in May when I talked to you the first time. But this comes in now, and it's the U.S. government's way of saying, look, we're putting a bet on you guys, and we're going to fund you guys to continue the development, push this thing from phase 1 quickly into phase 2, into phase 3, or get an emergency use authorization from the U.S. FDA, build out the manufacturing scale that you need to so that we can make hundreds of millions of doses of this product and put it out there as quickly as possible.
Where are we in the timeline on this, John? Like, where are you? So you're in your clinical trial. So you're in phase 1. What does that mean? Can you explain to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So vaccines traditionally go through a phase 1 is the first time you go into humans. You do a lot of preclinical, and normally, guys, and I think you guys know this because you're watching the news a lot, it normally takes about 10 years to bring a vaccine from start to finish all the way to a licensure where you're allowed to sell it into the market. So this is an incredibly compressed time frame that we're working under here. We started phase 1 back in May, and what you do is you do it in a relatively small group. We've got 130 subjects that received our vaccine down in Australia. And you get those results. You're looking for safety, and you're looking for an immunogenic reaction to the vaccine. You're looking to see that the body is creating antibodies against coronavirus, right? If you can demonstrate that to everybody's satisfaction, then you get to move into phase 2.
What percentage needs to show that? What percentage of your subjects?
It's a good question, Eric, and because there isn't a vaccine, because there is no precedent here. We don't have any experience with coronavirus, with this particular coronavirus before. So is it going to be 40% effective, 60% effective, 70, 80? It's hard to know exactly what percentage is going to qualify for a licensure at this point. The FDA has been a little bit vague because they don't know themselves what's going to happen. No vaccine has gotten that far along that the FDA is going to say, yeah, that's good. There are vaccines that are in phase 2 right now. We're about to go into phase 2. We're going to get our phase 1 results in a couple of weeks, and then we can roll this.
Are you on pins and needles? Like just waiting for that? Like, are you dying every day?
Absolutely, except that we have a lot of confidence because we've been testing it in animals. We've been testing it in primates and baboons. Baboons are, I hate to say this to you guys, but they're very similar to us.
Very similar to cakes. I know that.
Well,
by the way, why are you testing people in Australia and not here?
It's a great question, JP. So what happened is we wanted to get going so quickly. Traditionally here in the United States, you have to do what's called a toxicity study, which you tested in animals to ensure that there isn't any sort of toxic issues associated with providing the vaccine. That takes 3 months. Australia allows you to do that in parallel with your human testing if you've got history with the technology that is the underlying technology of our vaccine. And we've got a lot of history making recombinant vaccines here. What we're making proteins, okay? And it's relatively simple, but it's very elegant. We create these proteins that are derived from the same genetic sequence as SARS-CoV-2. And they fold up together. They look like the virus, but they're not the virus, and they won't make you sick. So you put them into the body, you generate all these antibodies into the human body. We also have this adjuvant that we add to our vaccine that promotes the body's ability to make antibodies. And so you can make, instead of making thousands of antibodies, you're making millions of antibodies. So we started in Australia because we could get into there quicker. And now we're going to roll it back into the United States with phase 2. And once we get through phase 2, then we'll go into it's going to be one of two things here, guys. Either they say phase 2 is good enough, and we're going to give you guys a special emergency use authorization. So we're going to be able to put this out into the public right away because we've got such great phase 2 results, and there's a pandemic out there, and there's a need. Or they're going to say do an expedited phase 3 trial, which typically involves many thousands of patients. We're gearing up for both. We don't know which way it's going to go, but under this contract that we have with the U.S. government, we're going to be making many hundreds of thousands of doses and we expect to deliver 10 million doses before the end of this year. So
wow.
So John, that trial you did, maybe I missed this, sorry, but that trial you did with the 130 Australians,
yep.
you haven't gotten those results back yet? It's coming
in any week, Jason.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah. So and we know it's safe because we've been monitoring. We've got a special safety monitoring board that's watching these patients to make sure that they're not reacting, that they're not getting COVID, that they're not. So we're monitoring the safety. We're confident that the safety is not going to be an issue. We just need to see in humans that the body is reacting the way that it's been reacting in mice and rats and baboons and so forth. So
right. Have you noticed? Obviously, the good news is a lot of people don't like to hear good news, but there's good news out there that the death rate has gone down, and a lot of that is because people are assuming because of younger people getting it, and I buy that. It makes sense to me.
Yep.
There's also the theory, though, that it's mutating and that sometimes these viruses become less lethal for whatever reason. It's over my head, a lot of it. Have you noticed that? Are you noticing any mutations in it so far?
Yeah, so we have an amazing team of scientists, epidemiologists, and virologists that are watching all of this really closely, Eric. And you're right, viruses mutate, and this one's no exceptions. We actually built a vaccine back in 2017 to SARS, which is a coronavirus. It was one of the earlier versions of the coronavirus, and then MERS came along, and we built a vaccine for that. It never proliferated to the extent that we needed to actually put our vaccine out there and put it into humans. But it does evolve. It does change. It does mutate. Whether it becomes more or less lethal or create more or less sickness is an open question right now. And our scientists are seeing variations that we get sera from convalescent patients from all over the world that they can look at and sort of analyze and understand what's going on.
Is it fair to say that they typically weaken over time, or is that not a fair statement?
You know, it's an interesting phenomena that happens because the virus is trying to survive, right? It's a living organism, so it's evolving to adapt to the situation, which is humans are developing antibodies that protect itself against it, and its desire is to survive. So in some respects, it's evolving, not necessarily always going to evolve to a weaker strain. There are situations where evolution has created stronger strains, and they're stronger because the body doesn't have any sort of antibody defense against it. That the virus is going to be weaker or stronger. If we've been exposed to an earlier version of COVID and we develop antibodies to it, then as it mutates, we've got some protection. It's trying to mutate to a point where it's going to find a hole. It's going to find some way into the human body and be able to proliferate there in the human body without the antibodies attacking it. So it's a game that plays. It's an ecology or an evolutionary game that happens between the human body and the virus itself.
John, do your people there have a suggestion for the Redskins name change?
I really don't, guys.
They got bigger fish to fry. Bigger fish to fry.
By the way, John, my body reacted to your company's stock price yesterday. It's up to $104.56.
How about that? That's
31% bump yesterday.
I told my guy, John, I said, buy.
Yes.
Hey, guys, I was on the show in May, and I told you guys that there was good things coming. So I don't know if any of you took my advice and
no, we're done.
a little bit.
We're scared, but now I'm not. I'm banking on you too, just like the government's banking on you.
If you guys give me Rom's number, I'll call him, and maybe he can be your test pony here for Novavax. No, here's another, the little company that could.
So much margin.
We were at $4 in December.
Oh, incredible.
Such a winner.
And our market.
There's hope for Entercom.
Well, that tells me you're even richer than you were before.
He's so
John,
much
we got
richer
to
right now.
run. Really appreciate your time. Congrats
guys,
on the $1.6 billion grant.
Yeah, good
And
luck.
Thank you.
Hopefully this
Thank
thing
you, guys.
happens.
All right,
John.
we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, John.
Take care.
Appreciate
John
it.
Herman, who's the chief legal counsel for Novavax, which is based right here in Gaithersburg. We're the Junkies. Be right back.